Καλησπέρα σας. Στο πλαίσιο των δράσεων της αστικής εταιρείας γέφυρης μη κερδοσκοπικού σκοπού Γέφυρης Ειρήνης και στο πλαίσιο των δράσεών της, μεταξύ των οποίων είναι ο διάλογος, ο διαπολιτισμικός διάλογος, έχουμε την τιμή να έχουμε στη συζήτησή μας σήμερα τον κύριο Οσμάν Οστοπράκ, ο οποίος είναι διευθυντής της μη κυβερνητικής οργάνωσης Συμμαχία για τις Κοινές Αξίες, η οποία μη κυβερνητική οργάνωση δραστηριοποιείται στις Ηνωμένες Πολιτείες, για να μας μιλήσει πάνω στο κίνημα Χιζμετ και στις βασικές αξίες του κινήματος. Το κίνημα Χιζμετ, το οποίο είναι γνωστό στο ευρύ κοινό ως κίνημα το οποίο αναπτύχθηκε από τον Φετουλάχ Γκιουλέν και το οποίο αναπτύχθηκε ραγδαία τόσο στην Τουρκία όσο και σε χώρες της Αφρικής, της Ευρώπης, των Ηνωμένων Πολιτειών. Είναι ένα κίνημα το οποίο έχει εστιάσει το ενδιαφέρον πολλών ερευνητών και σήμερα έχουμε λοιπόν τη τιμή να παρευρίσκεται μαζί μας ο κύριος Οσμάν Οστοπράκ προκειμένου να μας αναλύσει τι είναι το κίνημα Χιζμετ και ποιες είναι οι βασικές του αξίες και αρχές. Mr. Osman Ostoprak, we have the honor that you are now with us in this presentation, so we would like to tell us what is Hizmet movement and what are the values of this movement.
Thank you for inviting me, first of all, and I am pleased to be here, and it's my honor to be here. Yes, about Hizmet, what is Hizmet? Hizmet is a social civic society movement that started in Turkey in early 1960s. As a civil society movement, it prioritizes education and interfaith dialogue and humanitarian aid. So by focusing on these three areas, Hizmet society, Hizmet movement, wants to instill a peaceful environment wherever they are. They would like to have people to live together in peace, to understand one another. So today we know that it's a polarizing world and everybody is just simply looking at from their camps. If they do, then it is difficult to talk about friendship and peace and tranquility and harmony. So one way to help people to have peace is to have people get in dialogue. So Hizmet prioritizes, and to this end, for education purposes, Hizmet movement opens schools around the world for students, underprivileged students, so that they can have a better education and they can have a better life for themselves and for their society, for their children to come. And also for instilling the interfaith dialogue, as I mentioned, to instill peace and understanding, mutual respect. And thirdly, by humanitarian relief and aid to help people who are less privileged, who don't have means to survive. So Hizmet movement goes to those places, open soup kitchens, hospitals, clinics, if there is a need, water wells and medical checkups for the people who are in need. So that's basically what Hizmet does.
Could you tell us how the Hizmet movement started, and how this mentality of the movement spread to all over the world, by which means, and if you can tell us the main ideas and how the movement started and spread it to other countries. And which countries, of course?
Yes, it's a very good question. First, Hizmet started by the teachings of Fethullah Gülen in early 1960s when he was a young imam. He saw the Turkey's continuous problem of disunity. People in Turkey were divided into different camps for their lifestyles, for their ideological differences, or for their political parties or ethnicities, the different ways that Turkish society was divided. That's one of them was a disunity. The other one was the ignorance, lack of education, and the third one was poverty in some parts of Turkey. So, as a young imam, Mr. Gülen asked people around him to invest in solving these problems. And how are we going to solve these problems? There's a disunity in a society if people do not talk to one another, if one group hates the other group, one group dehumanizes the other group. The best way is to bring them around the table, to have them talk to one another, to have them understand how we're going to fight ignorance. You have to open schools, you have to educate students so they can have a better life. How we're going to help solve poverty is through business associations, through investments. So as a young imam, he didn't concentrate on teaching at the mosques or regular Quran, Hadith, Islamic teachings. He started talking at the cafes, social clubs, so that he can convince the wider audience that these are our problems and we are living in the same country, we are on the same boat, we have to solve these problems together. And a lot of people understood Mr. Gülen's message.
How the movement affected first the society in Turkey, how much this movement affected the society in Turkey, and also how this movement affected other societies outside Turkey in other countries.
Yes, yes.
And how this movement was entered in these societies.
Because of Mr. Gülen's call for investing in education, schools started opening in Turkey. Businessmen invested their money. They bought land. They built the schools. And young people become teachers in these schools. And they taught math and science and moral values to these students. And when the public saw the results, in every city they tried to open their similar model schools in their city. The first school was opened in Izmir, Smyrna. Then the second one opened in Istanbul, and third in Ankara. Then all of a sudden, other cities looked at these results, and they're producing results. The students are graduating with good character and when very good knowledge. They're having good results on the tests. So they said, we have to have one of these in our city. And businessmen in that city invested in their schools, and they opened the schools. After 1990s, with the collapse of the Soviet Union, and a lot of businessmen automatically went to Central Asia to start import-export businesses. And when they looked at that, there was a need for education. So they started, we have this idea in Turkey. Can we do this in here? So they started talking there, Kyrgyz, other countries like friends, and they started opening schools in Central Asia. And wherever businessmen went and wherever the teachers went, they established these schools. So Hizmet in many countries went through these, first of all, opening the schools. Second, through humanitarian relief aid. If there was a disaster, now closed Kimse Yok Mu humanitarian relief organization, went to many countries and helped people in need after a disaster, after a hunger, after a disease struck the community. So the third one, that was through dialogue. Wherever there is like the Hizmet people, they engage with their society through interfaith, intercultural dialogue. So this is how Hizmet people engages with their society in different countries.
What is the real meaning of education according to the Hizmet aspect?
To me, I am a former teacher. I served as a school principal. So the education is the best way to instill, to grow a healthy society. through a very robust, very multidimensional curriculum, you can have full potential students. One way is you can teach math and science, all the humanities in the school, but for Hizmet, it is not enough. You have to teach them the values, the morals, the good character, so they can become responsible citizens, active citizens, socially responsible to their communities. So they should not be selfish. They have to look into the society, they have to look into the needs, and they have to work to solve these problems. So education is the seed of many problems in a society. So through these schools, Hizmet tries to, in a way, to help solve social problems wherever they are.
For the Hizmet movement, the education is one of the most important matters that the movement focus on this. I read the brochure about the values that you have. This is a brochure telling about Hizmet values, and what I saw is that the movement tried to enforce, especially the young people, to motivate the empathy in individual and in social perspective. What means empathy? Cultivating the empathy in individual and social level for the movement.
Yeah, the meaning of empathy is to, basically, the simplest form is to put yourself in someone else's shoes. That means looking at every issue, everything from the other person's perspective. So this is very important. Imagine that the kids are learning this from a very young age. You know what's happening around the world. A lot of there's a conflict between countries. Religious people are trying to make we are the best, and so there's the kind of a friction. And most of the time, students don't learn to look at from the other angle, how other people feel, how minorities feel. So by a very good education model, you can teach this skill to the students. So if there is a problem that a national conflict, ethnic conflict, if there is a majority group and there is a minority group, majority usually feels they are superior.
Exactly.
Right? So minorities are the victims. So one way to help majority understand the problems of minority is to teach them empathy. So that they can look at how other people are affected by the rhetoric, by the policies, by the even jokes. So empathy is the root cause.
Because the most important thing in the modern world, the most important problem in the modern world is that we don't know how to listen the other part. We have opposite to us.
Yes.
We don't have the understanding to understand and realize the other's attitude.
Yes.
So what is the model that Hizmet uses in education so that especially the young people are taught to follow this perspective, to understand, to have understanding to each other attitude, and also to evaluate their attitude on basis of the dialogue. How the movement achieves this in the education that produces?
I can give you a couple of examples from the practice.
Yes.
But I can say theoretically, one way that
you can share. We can share also some examples. So
yes, you have example. You know also maybe some of them. One way to Hizmet achieves is that in the schools, the schools are open to everybody. So when you have people from different walks of life, different ideologies, different faiths, depending on the case, the country, if the kids are sitting each other in the classroom, learning together, being friends, with teachers' mentorship. Teachers also have to know how to guide these students in these difficult topics. So sometimes, like a teacher's attitude is also important. For example, after the Balkan War in Bosnia, Hizmet people, businessmen, opened schools. And there was a conflict between Serbs and Croatians and the Bosnians, as a lot of people know. And one way to achieve an empathy was to have students from Serbian, Croatian, and Bosnian sit in the same classroom, learn the same things. This was an example in the Philippines. Father Thomas Michel talks about his experience when he was in Philippines visiting, and people told him that there was a Turkish school. And he said, like, what kind of school is that? And they said, there's a Turkish school, it's like very successful, and he visits the school. And he says, when he enters the school, he knows the situation outside. There was a conflict between Muslim society and the Muslim community and the Christians. When he enters the school, he sees that the Christian and Muslim kids are sitting side by side, learning and enjoying, having fun. And he calls this environment an island of peace. So this is the way that how is, and when you have friendship, then you can look at from your friend's perspective on the issues. That's how, to me, empathy is taught.
I think one of the values is solidarity.
Yeah.
Okay. The friendship, the solidarity, the notion of peace around the world. Yeah. How this solidarity is achieved in the place of in the environment of the schools in Hizmet?
If the solidarity means, by solidarity, if you refer to having one goal, having a united, combined goal, working together, shoulder to shoulder, for their society's benefit. That is, when you teach them the empathy, when they look at their society from a common perspective, then there's a society, there is a unity. The common goal is that we are in the same country. Anything good happens, we're going to benefit from it. Anything bad happens, we're going to suffer from it. So when they learn this, then there is a solidarity around working together, unity, dialogue, empathy, friendship, peace, understanding, respect. So when you have the solidarity around these topics, then you can talk about a mutual, peaceful environment. So that's one of the ways is to have, and it's not only by education itself too, like dialogue is that, education is for the younger generations, but for adults too. Hizmet is implementing interfaith programs, dialogue programs with different religious groups, different ethnic groups, different cultural groups. So just the goal is to bring them together so that they can look at eye to eye. They can share a meal together. And the friendship forms. And when the friendship forms, they look at the issues from the same angle. That, to me, is a solidarity. So if you are living in Greece, if you have solidarity, it doesn't matter if you're Greek or Turk or Pakistani or Ukrainian. If you are concerned about Greek society, you have a solidarity about the issues. How are we going to solve this hunger problem? How are we going to solve this problem, that problem? So that, to me, is the way to bring solidarity.
So the education enforce the capacity for the students to cooperate each other to the common purpose. The common purpose. Could you explain us some common purpose that Hizmet has as an ideal, as common values?
I would like to read from here, like a couple of lines, like what Hizmet wants to achieve, or Hizmet's vision for a society, is one that every human being is treated with dignity and accepted for who they are. So there's a notion of diversity, and you have to see a dignity in every human being. So when you see dignity in every human being, you don't want to harm them by even your mouth, your joke, your humor. So there's a society, every human being is treated with dignity and accepted for who they are. The second one is human rights are protected. A society in which human rights are protected, and any form of diversity that doesn't contradict with fundamental human rights is seen as richness. So everybody brings their own color. A society where people are sensitive to problems of their humanity in a larger sense, and a society where people of different religions, cultures, and worldviews enter dialogue and empathize one another. And another one, a society where people live in peace and harmony. Mm-hmm. So these are the values that Hizmet has a vision in a society, that people should have these values. Out of these values, this kind of society can form. And one of the things that also Hizmet emphasized, that the Hizmet people are working with any group, any society, any organization who shares the similar values, who respects human dignity, who wants to have a peaceful society. So this is this kind of society that Hizmet people envisions.
The movement is only a social movement, or it's a movement that expresses many aspects. For example, in policy, or in religion, or in theoretical or philosophical basis. What really means Hizmet? Is just only a movement, a social movement? Is a movement, a political movement of open society, of citizens of an open society? Yeah. Is a movement that tells something to the world about the religious matters? Yeah. What really is the movement?
To me, Hizmet, by the way, means service. I'm sure you said it in Greek.
Yes.
I didn't understand, but I'm sure you said it because you know the meaning. Hizmet means service. So basic, fundamental value of Hizmet is to serve human beings, regardless of their culture, ethnicity, religion, or country, position. So when you have that as fundamental, your core value, serving human being, then you engage in a lot of different activities, every possible way that you can serve the society. We talk about only three things like education, humanitarian relief, and dialogue, but there are many other areas that the Hizmet serves their society. To me, Hizmet is a transnational civil society. Mm-hmm. So it engages in many different ways, and it is faith-inspired, its term, because when you look at the Hizmet, started in the 1960s, Mr. Gülen was an imam, and he encouraged Turkish people using religious teachings to help their society. So people took upon themselves to open schools as a religious duty. Mm. Like, it's my social duty, and it's my religious duty. Mr. Gülen said, there are enough mosques in Turkey. We don't need any more mosques. There are not enough schools. We need schools. So can you imagine that? The Imam is telling these people, don't open mosques and open schools. So when you look at this, it's a civil society. It grows and it invents new ways to help societies. But it is not only for Muslims. It's open to everybody. Whoever shares this vision, people come together. Imagine school in Cambodia. Hizmet teachers are working in the school as teachers. To me, a Buddhist can be a teacher, can be a school principal, and can support the school as a Buddhist from his or her religious convictions. Mm-hmm. It is not contradicting my religious convictions that as a Muslim I am doing this to receive God's pleasure, and it is not wrong by Buddhists contributing to the project to reach nirvana. So that's the beauty of it. A Christian and a Muslim can work together to open a water well in Africa to help people. My own goal will be my own benefit. Your own goal will be your own benefit.
Yes.
But we will help solve the problem. So
I heard also at that time that Hizmet was spreaded so much in the Turkish society. Yeah. And I think it is amazing how so fast the movement was spread in the Turkish society. It is amazing. I think in 30 years, the movement succeeded to change the mentality of the society. normally, to change the mentality of a society, you need about 2 or 3 generations, maybe more.
Yeah.
So this is the amazing thing of the movement, that changed the mentality of the people. And as I heard that at that time, I think in the decades of 90, the Turkish society was so enthusiastic of the movement that, for example, they said that we give money to open water wells in Africa, and we are considered this giving money as a honor for them, like saying that, okay, by my money, by the money I spend now, I give to the movement. Now a water well in Africa is to be achieved, and many people in Africa would have this gift of the water, because for us the water is something we don't estimate, we don't, but for them in Africa it is something very valuable. So what I tell is this: how a movement can intrigue, how a movement can inspire a society to think about serving not only its society but also other societies.
Somebody that they don't know.
Yes, exactly.
I guess it goes back to, again, when you look at Mr. Gülen's teachings, and only thing that you can see is that it's all rooted in tradition, in the Quran and Hadith from an Islamic perspective. And out of that, to me, the big one is the social responsibility. So there's a sunnah, there's a hadith saying that the most righteous of you is the one who helps fellow human beings the most. And in the Quran it says you have to compete in goodness, serving others. So there are a lot of hadiths and Quran that are asking Muslims to help fellow human beings regardless of who they are. So it's a call. So what I think was that Mr. Gülen used these sources, these callings, to convince people. And to me, how people got into the business of helping other people in the country they haven't been to, is that there was a trust. They know that, to me, inherently human beings are good people, good creatures. Allah put goodness in everybody. In a good-hearted person, when somebody sees somebody suffering, their heart aches. They want to help. So there's already in that. So what Mr. Gülen used is that there's already goodness in people. He just channeled them. And many people maybe didn't know how to help those people. Many people knew that there were hungry people in Africa. There are people who needed water. There are people who had to walk 10 miles to get 1 bucket of water. But people didn't know how to help them maybe. So Hizmet movement opened the channels, making it easier for them to realize the problem and help them solve the problem and be part of the solution. So this way, and to do this, one of the most important things is trust. So if you give money to charity, you have to trust that it's going to go to where you aim that it's going to go to. So that's also the trust to this. So yeah, people first, it opened their views, and with the Hizmet, people start traveling. And when they saw the results of their water well, they see people are becoming happy. Kids are thinking that they don't have to walk 10 miles every day to get water. So that's, to me, is like it's a channeling of these calling in the religious sources. Again, as Hizmet becomes transnational, and we realize that there are other people around the world, in other faiths, in other cultures, trying to achieve the same thing. The best way to do it is to work together.
Yes.
To put the forces together, cooperate together, so you can have a bigger impact.
Yes. Also, in the movement, not only in Turkey but also in other countries, helps the poor children to follow the educational programs. As a lawyer, it surprised me and impressed me a lot. On 2018, when I have had some clients, there was a couple of teachers they belong to Hizmet movement, and they came from Egypt. They had a school of Hizmet in Egypt, and when they left from Egypt because they were purged by the Muslim Brotherhood that was acting in Egypt before. There at that time was very strong movement, the Muslim Brotherhood, that is a radical. I think it's a radical. They are radical, so they don't. How can I say?
It was a time when the Mursi was the president,
exactly,
so there was a close connection with Turkey as the government.
So they left from Egypt and they came to Greece and they requested asylum in Greece. I was during their interview, and when I heard that they were teachers of Hizmet in Egypt, and what was their purpose? To take the orphans from the streets and give all the accommodation to those children. They were in poverty, to follow the education. And the title of the school was From the Street to the school, and from the school to the life. And I was impressed of the title.
The title that tells there what they do.
Yes, exactly.
Genuinely, yeah. This is amazing. And part of to me, is the responsibility is that if you have, we talked about the empathy, right? And if you can see yourself as, if you can see yourself as the part of the human family, and if you are a family, you have to be concerned about every member of the family. So, to me, that's another thing that the Hizmet people is instilling in people, that you are not alone. You are not only for yourself, for your community. You are part of a larger family, so you have to be part of it. So that's the reason why another value that Hizmet people looks at the world through, that they are part of a larger family. Yes.
You said about the social responsibility as a basic notion of the movement. And what I'm thinking now is that this is a different aspect about a different model, how we build a modern society. Because in the modern society, as we told before, is this the lack of understanding each other, and the other problem is that they consider the success of someone in individual level, not in a social, not in the frame of the social responsibility.
Yes.
For example, if you see politicians, for example, that are engaged in the policy, and someone was a former businessman.
Yes.
They say, okay, because he was a successful businessman, he will be successful politician, because his company, his earnings grows up annually, so the same will happen if he would be engaged in the policy. Other politicians, for example, are present their university titles.
Yes.
What are really the new model that Hizmet could express about the social responsibility?
Yes, the social when you look at, so to have the social responsibility.
Sorry that I interrupt you. For example, there are many businessmen. They give donations for the schools, for
Yes.
hospitals, they think that it is like a social obligation for their company to contribute in the social development.
Yes.
So how is this notion could be evaluated and could be developed under this matter?
To me, the social responsibility, the word responsibility comes actually as an answer to that question, is that you have to instill over time the notion that whatever you have, if you're a religious person, it's not your own making. It is somehow God's gift. Naturally, it's like you have to understand it's the God's gift to you that you somehow get to use it, and God asks you to spend it for yourself and for the others who need it. So, as I mentioned in the beginning, is a faith-based organization. So right now, mostly Hizmet participants are Muslim, but people from other faiths, other religions also find Hizmet values something that people they can adhere to, so they are becoming part of Hizmet, and they call themselves that we are part of Hizmet because I am doing the same thing. So for the Muslim participants, it is a responsibility that they have to give back to the society. Mm-hmm. And one of the values here is that the Hizmet values, that for so many years I have to find the social, civic engagement and contribution to society. So that what makes Hizmet. Hizmet is, I'm going to read from here, is that Hizmet participants consider it a social responsibility, they understand this, to contribute to society and help solve societal problems. They see themselves as part of the human family. They are sensitive towards humanity's problems and aim to serve humanity. So this is one of the. Another one is altruism. The goodness. Sometimes people forget like the meaning of altruism. That it's part of their responsibility. Also, if you're a citizen, if you are benefiting from living in society, from the health system, for other education systems, for your neighbors, like friendliness, for peace in your environment, you have to somehow be kind to give back to make it even better. So for Hizmet volunteers, joining activities are leaving them as a person's individual choice. So one of the ways that it's all voluntary. Mm-hmm. And when people see that it's not obligatory, it's voluntary, exactly. So they feel that they own the action. And Hizmet participants contribute to projects that bring to life their values and benefit humanity through donations, volunteer work. So it's voluntary. When it's voluntary, you kind of feel that you own this, and as you give more, there's some sense of completeness in you. Then you find a meaning in what you do. When you give back, you help person get a cataract surgery. Imagine this, a woman who has a cataract cannot see. If she has babies, she cannot see the baby's face. She can hear crying, but she cannot see the beauty. And the babies need something, she cannot attend them fully. She cannot easily feed them. She cannot easily cook them. If you think it's a father, he cannot go to work and make money. Can you imagine by helping one person having a cataract surgery and able to see how the life of a mother can change, and how the life of the many children can change and generations can change, how the father can provide for the family. So when you do a good act, it's kindness and it fulfills you. It gives you a fulfillment. You are becoming part of something bigger than yourself.
Exactly.
Something bigger than yourself.
This is a notion that's a notion different from what we are taught in our societies.
It's different than material.
Than the material, exactly. Wealth, because you consider yourself as a part of something wider, something bigger, and you pose yourself inside this community, this society, and you consider yourself that you need to serve the other people, and the core of the happiness is what you serve to the other people. Not what you earn, but what you serve.
Yes.
This is a different aspect for our modern society and how we can achieve the happiness.
Yes, that's
What really means happiness in a material matter or by other aspects. So also giving to other people and serving to other people. I think the movement call the people to be active in the social matters. And for me, as a Greek, I think that being active in social things daily or continuously, it is the core of the democracy.
Yes.
Because the democracy is not the elections one time every 4 or 5 years and after you stay inactive, but you need to be continuously active by forming association groups or intrigue the other people to come together and working for some common purposes relating to the universal values or common purposes, common targets. So I think that the core of the democracy is this. How is the connection, what is the connection between Hizmet and the democracy on that matter? And how Hizmet achieves this notion of the democracy? Because you know, as I said, to be active as a member of the society, this means democracy.
Yes. It's not only, as you mentioned, it's not only going once in 5 years and it's casting a ballot.
Yes, exactly. How the movement can intrigue all these people, for example, businessmen, to participate to this to donate to social matters. Also, to be interested in international problems. People in the society to work together for daily problems in society, for the poverty or for education. We said before about the solidarity between the students, okay, and the teachers. And also you said us about the voluntary, the volunteer mentality.
Democracy is like simply providing basic rights to every citizen. These rights is the freedom of thought, freedom of expression, freedom of religion, rule of law. These are all part of this democracy. Is the ballot box. You show your opinion, you express your opinion by voting for this person, for this candidate, or for this leader. So this is a democracy. But it doesn't stop there, as you mentioned. So to me, a democracy is exercising your rights.
Exactly.
Exercising means practicing your rights. If you see a problem in your society, you don't expect everything from the government. As a citizen, active citizen, you can be part of the solution. How are you going to be part of the solution? By developing projects. If you don't have the means, by creating awareness. You can be a civil society creating awareness on environmental issues. You can talk to your government that you have to change your policies. You have to advocate for a good cause. So active citizenship and practicing, exercising your rights. And to me, what Hizmet was doing in Turkey, he couldn't do it until he did not, because of Turkish society, government structure, state does not have a broad understanding of civil society. It means that if you're going to do something, you do something over there, and do not, if for education, if there's going to be a policy change, don't expect a policy change. This is the government, you do your things. But in a real democracy, there is a communication between civil society and the state. But unfortunately, in some countries, one of them is Turkey, a communication is misunderstood as a rebellion, as a traitor. So to me, real democracy, if you're talking about a real democracy, is that the people in citizens have to practice their rights to understand the problem, to come up with the solutions, to communicate with the government, to influence their solutions. This is how what I see in the United States. There's a great communication between the mayor's offices and the civil society, governor's offices, even the president's offices, senators. There's a huge communication. If you remove that communication, just simply it is becoming authoritarian. So one of the things is that the Hizmet does this by practicing. There's different ways that you can practice your citizenship rights, exercise them. And Hizmet emphasizes, I'm going to read from here, is that the Hizmet participants respect the rule of law. They do not see anyone as above the law, and they act within the framework of protection of human dignity, universal legal principles, and laws of their country of residence. And one thing that they do is that they are always promote positive action. They are constructive. You can be against many different things. I don't know what can you achieve by being against something, but you can be for something too. You can be for education. You can be for peace. You can be for dialogue, and this is constructive. And when you look at the issues from a positive action perspective, you don't only complain. You don't sit silent. You don't say, this is our fate. Oh my God, what we're going to do. But you can do that. Okay, this is this. I have some means to do it. At least I can talk to the people. So this is the positive action to me. That's how Hizmet achieves its democratic rights in any society they are in. And I'm sure they're not alone. There are a lot of friends, there are a lot of communities, there are a lot of civil society organizations work hand in hand with Hizmet in this matter.
For us, the Hizmet, for us, we are Greek, the Hizmet movement has a special importance. Why? Because for two things, I tell you. 300 years ago, there was during the Ottoman time, there was a priest, Orthodox Christian priest, who was teaching the same thing as Hizmet nowadays, telling at that time that the education is one of the most important things so that the human being could be released from the ties of the ignorance, so the education is very valuable. And 300 years later, another priest, but a Muslim imam, said the same thing. That's why for us has a very special meaning. And also Hizmet, as a notion, as a meaning, that is service, has a root, I think, of the Aristotle's philosophy, because Aristotle said that a citizen in the city is the person who serves himself to the common purpose of the city.
Okay.
Anyone else who cares only for himself, earning for himself, is an idiotis, is the Greek notion. In English is idiot.
Idiot.
So you can understand that the same, I think the same aspect is the aspect of Hizmet. And the core of this is the notion of the democracy.
Yes.
That we speak now. So, okay, I give you the last words to close our meeting. I think we tired you.
No, I'm very well. Thank you so much. Thank you it was a very good conversation. Thank you. And Hizmet has these 12 values. They are not new. I have to just say one thing, that many people maybe who knows Hizmet for so many years, they shouldn't think that wasn't there any values before. But actually there were values. Because of these values, Hizmet has been active and developed very successful projects in different countries. But only because of this recent years, that because of Hizmet become a transnational, people wanted to understand Hizmet in a short way. I want to know by one glance who you are, what you do, what your vision. So a group of people came together and consulted with many Hizmet participants from different walks of life, different countries, and Hizmet, friends of Hizmet, like yourself from Greece, other countries, they said, what do you see in Hizmet? When you say Hizmet, what comes to your mind? So when we look at these things, and people saw that there's a lot of commonalities, so everybody sees the Hizmet the same way. So it was a work of putting those together, crystallizing them, and explaining them in a concise manner. So Hizmet values has been there before, but only just on a matter of fact, like putting them together and publishing them. So to me, and Mr. Gülen says here, I'm going to close with this, what does Hizmet values mean for people in Hizmet and for everybody? He says, this work on values is commendable and has a promise for the future. I have the belief and hope that the activities of Hizmet volunteers devoted to these core values on the trajectory of the helping others live with the high goal of God's pleasure will contribute significantly to the formation of a more livable world of peace and tranquility. May God bless those who contributed to this work.
Yes.
Not only people who did this, people for so many years make these values a living reality by schools, by water wells, by hospitals, by dialogue centers. So that's my last words.
Mr. Rozdobrak, we thank you very much for this conversation. You explained in details about the values of Hizmet, and we thank you for your presentation. And I give you my hand.
Thank you for
as
insightful
a sign
questions. Thank you.
of our friendship.
Thank you so much. Thank you for wonderful conversation. It was an honor. Thank you.
Thank you.